And very often when I travel, I fast. So I leverage ketones to provide me with mental energy. I decided to carry the Air Angel after a very bad experience at an Airbnb. Number 8 and 9 is more related to my everyday carry setup. So that's not only when I travel, but also at home. But you can also use it as a weapon, and it just looks like a regular pen. And so far I've had no issues going through airport security with that pen. And improve the quality of your sleep, especially I bring those when I travel across time zones. Like the other day, I went to California, that almost every hotel has at least 1 or 2 rooms for guests with sensitivities. I'd like to hear, if you want to shoot me an email, or depending on where you see this, if you see it on YouTube, leave me a comment and let me know, what do you carry?
You're listening to the Primal Shift podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kummer, and my goal is to help you achieve optimal health by bridging the gap between ancestral living and the demands of modern society. Get ready to unlock the transformative power of nature as the ultimate biohack, revolutionizing your health and reconnecting you with your primal self.
This episode of the Primal Shift podcast is brought to you by MK Supplements. Are you looking to boost your energy, enhance your overall well-being, and tap into the primal power of nature? Discover the secret our ancestors knew with MK Supplements freeze-dried beef organ capsules. Packed with essential vitamins and minerals, these supplements are sourced from the highest quality beef organs. They're the perfect way to nourish your body just as nature intended. Whether you're powering through a busy day or pushing your limits in the gym, MK Supplements offers the natural, nutrient-rich boost you need. And here is something to get excited about. Use code PRIMALSHIFT at checkout for an exclusive 15% off on your first purchase. Learn more at shop.michaelkummer.com or check out the show notes. Here are 16 items that I carry when I travel to make my life more convenient, but also to be able to sustain the lifestyle that I have without significantly disrupting it. And the items on this list are in no particular order. They are just as they popped into my head, mixed with some alphabetical ordering that I just established when I wrote down the list. Number 1, that's something you might have not expected. It's the Hypoair Air Angel. It's a bipolar ionization technology or device that can remove and deactivate airborne pathogens, but also pathogens on surfaces. And I've written about bipolar ionization on my blog, so you can check out more about the technology behind it. But I decided to carry the Air Angel after a very bad experience at an Airbnb where they had lit, I don't know how many scented candles. The entire home was filled with VOCs and nasty stuff that I absolutely did not want to inhale, but there was only so much I could do about it. After unplugging and airing the whole house, there was still that smell in there and all of those VOCs that I had to endure. So I started carrying the Air Angel. It's a very small device that I can put into my carry-on, and it releases charged particles that can, as I said, deactivate pathogens, bacteria, viruses in the air, on surfaces, on contact basically, but also remove many of the VOCs and, basically purify the air at the end of the day. Number 2 is a battery pack for my iPhone because, depending on why I'm traveling, usually it's somewhat work related, but even if it's for pleasure, there's always a kind of work component, recording footage for social media, etc. So I typically run out of battery, and that's why I carry a battery pack. Number 3 is beef sticks or some sort of beef-based protein, ideally a combination of protein and fat, so, fatty beef sticks or something that can sustain me in the absence of other food choices. And very often when I travel, I don't have access to the type of food that I want, and so I carry beef sticks. The other thing very closely related to this is exogenous ketones, which is a form of energy. If you don't know what exogenous ketones are or why you might want to supplement with them, check out my other previous podcast episode. I also have a blog post on the best ketone supplements, but the bottom line is they're a form of energy that makes my brain work better and faster. And so especially when I don't eat, and very often when I travel, I fast, on both ways. That makes it so much easier. I don't have to worry about food when I get there or on the way home, especially if I have an early morning flight. I don't have to worry about breakfast. So I leverage ketones to provide me with mental energy, with the energy my brain needs to work incredibly well without me having to worry about food. But if I eat food, or if I carry food, then it's, beef-based protein, like beef sticks, for example. Number 4, I also always carry a book or magazines. Either, I pick up a magazine at the newsstand at the airport, or I bring one with me because very often I have to wait, for a flight before checking into a hotel, et cetera, et cetera. And it's, instead of being on my phone, I read, I don't have a whole lot of time of reading anyway. I wish I had much more time to pick up, a book or a magazine. And when I travel, I always use that opportunity to catch up. Number 5 is cash and an extra credit card. And that might sound like, well, if you have a wallet, why worry about extra cash and an extra credit card? Well, here's the thing. There was one occasion where I left home to travel by plane to a business meeting, stay there overnight, and come back, and I didn't have my wallet or ID with me. But, the story gets better. This is just, the overarching theme. But I have clear, so I didn't need to show my ID at the airport. I checked in with my phone before already at the hotel, and I had a contactless key, or my phone was the key for the room, so I didn't have to go to the reception, show my ID. So I started my entire trip without ever having to pull out my ID and realize that I didn't bring my wallet. On the way back then, at the airport, I had 2 hours to spare before my flight, and I decided I'm going to grab lunch. And I had some oysters and shrimp, so I decided I'm going to do it at, a seafood day. And I had a very good meal. And then when it was time to pay, I realized I didn't have my wallet. And I'm like, do you guys do Apple Pay? Nope, of course not. And I asked them if I can, Zelle them or Venmo them the money. They didn't do that either. So they had to call the police, and fortunately, at some point then they agreed to take my credit card information over the phone. So the owner of the restaurant, was on the phone with me. I could give him my credit card information that I had, fortunately, in my in my password vault on the phone, and I could pay for the meal. But I almost ended up in jail because not being able to pay, just because I didn't have any cash or any extra credit card. So that's why I always have in my backpack, in a separate compartment, cash, couple of $100 just in case, and an extra credit card to, so I can pay in case I need to. Number 6 is electrolytes. And I like, elements. They taste very good. They're not super inexpensive, but they work really well. They're clean. They taste good. And I always bring electrolytes with me, especially for the days when I fast. So if I don't eat, I feel like I need some extra electrolytes to perform optimally. And it's also a nice, being able to have a flavored beverage that is not a soda. And that's why I always have a couple of small pouches there of electrolytes that I can pour into water and be good to go. Number 8 and 9 is more related to my everyday carry setup. So that's not only when I travel, but also at home. I always bring a flashlight, a pocket flashlight, and then either a pen that doubles as a glass breaker, or potentially also as a weapon if need be, or a pocket knife. And the pocket knife at home is mostly for, cutting open packages, and stuff like that. In working, with the animals, you always need a knife handy to, open feed bags, etc. But also in the worst case scenario, you could use it as a self-defense item. But when I travel by plane in particular, or when I travel to certain jurisdictions where, knives might be an issue, especially going through airport security is the classic example. You cannot bring a knife. And so I have that pen that's made out of aluminum, and it has a glass breaker on a very sharp point on one side, so I can break glass if I have to, but you can also use it as a weapon, and it just looks like a regular pen. And so far I've had no issues going through airport security with that pen. The number 10 is organic instant coffee, or those bulletproof. They have it in those, pots, I think they call them, so that when I'm on an airplane in an early morning flight, for example, and I want to enjoy a cup of coffee, I don't have to get the sucky coffee aboard the plane in a paper cup that has plastic lining on the inside, with a lot of microplastics. No, I can actually just ask them, hey, can I use my stainless steel mug? That's actually another item on number 15th on my list. A stainless steel coffee mug that I can hand them and say, hey, can you please fill it with hot water? And then I pour in my organic instant coffee and I can have a cup of coffee without being exposed to all of the toxins of the regular coffee that you might get at the airport or when you travel. And, you avoid the paper cup. So I always bring my own coffee mug for that reason as well. The bulletproof pots I bring because in many hotel rooms, they have those coffee makers that use pots. And so I don't have to use the pots that the hotel provides, which are, non-organic and potentially full of toxins. I found the other day at Sprouts, actually while traveling, those bulletproof pots We used to buy Bulletproof coffee. It's very good coffee. It's clean. It's tested for toxins. And so I can use their pots, and they don't take up a lot of space. I might only bring, 3 or 4, depending on how many days I travel. I don't drink more than a cup or maybe 2 a day of coffee. And so I bring those, and I can enjoy my coffee without exposing myself to stuff that I don't really want to. The same goes with organic teapots. And if I want to have something hot in the afternoon, especially during the colder months of the year, I don't drink coffee in the afternoon because it impacts my sleep. I drink tea. And so I bring, organic little, tea bags that are plastic free. And again, I just have to ask for hot water, and I can have my own tea in my stainless steel mug. Number 12 is salt. We usually buy either Redmond real salt or Oryx, I think it's the other one. It's a Kalahari or salt from the Kalahari Desert. And so a clean salt free of microplastics. I bring that everywhere we go, even to restaurants when we don't travel, but just go out and eat, which doesn't happen very often. But if it does, we bring our own salt, especially when we travel. I want to make sure I have access to good quality salt. In particularly, if I don't bring electrolytes, or if I don't want to, open a pouch of Element, I just, use salt, either, pour it in my hand, lick my hand, assuming I've washed it before, or just use it, when I have breakfast or a meal. Number 13 is a sleep mask. I used to tape off lights in the room or unplug devices, and I'm like, instead of doing this, and, then typically when I leave, I want to make sure I leave the room in the same condition I found it. So I plug everything back in, and I'm like, instead of going through that hassle, I'm just going to wear a sleep mask, and it's blackout. I don't have to worry about if they have blackout curtains, if there are status, lights of electronic devices or what have you, of the, smoke alarm, what have you. And so wearing a sleep mask, no brainer, super easy. We have the one from, or I like the one from Hostage Tape, the, mouth tape that I also use, and they also have a sleep mask, and I find that to be very comfortable, and that's the one I carry with me, and I also use that at home. Number 14 is Sleep Remedy from Doc Parsley. And it's a sleep supplement that is also very clean and has micro doses of melatonin and GABA and some vitamins and magnesium. Basically stuff that can help you fall asleep quicker and improve the quality of your sleep. Especially, I bring those when I travel across time zones. Like the other day, I went to California, and I did my best to stay on Eastern time because I was only there on the ground literally for just over a day. So I arrived on a Monday, I had meetings on Tuesday, and I left Wednesday morning, and I just tried as best as I could to stay on Eastern time zone. But very often that doesn't happen, depending on, your schedule, or if you stay longer. So it makes sense to adjust to the local time zone. If that's the case, I use Sleep Remedy to, fall asleep at a time when I would normally not be tired, or the other way around. So really, really cool supplement. I already mentioned my stainless steel mug. I also bring a stainless steel water bottle that I can fill up at the airport. Typically they have those, refill stations where they allow you to fill up your bottle with filtered water. So if that's available, and it is available at most airports, at least here in the United States, I don't bother bringing a bottle with a built-in filter. We used to do this. We still use them for certain occasions, but the downside of having a bottle that has a filter built in, where it's an inline filter where you have to, suck the water out to filter it through the filter before it gets into your mouth. The downside of that is you cannot use it with electrolytes, for example, because it would filter everything out, right? And so I started traveling with just a regular stainless steel, it's a Yeti bottle that I can refill at the airport. And then whenever I book a hotel or an Airbnb, I try to make sure it's close to, in walking distance ideally, to a Sprouts or to a Whole Foods market. And in both places you can find bottled water that's in glass. And then number 16th on my list, and that's also something that you might not have thought about, but that's really part of my everyday carry, is a trauma kit, including a tourniquet and a quick clot compression type of bandage that allows me, in a worst case scenario, because you never know what's going to happen, you might injure yourself, you might be in a car accident or, plane crash, and you survive, luckily, and you're bleeding or someone else is bleeding, and you need to stop the bleeding. So that's why I always carry a trauma kit with me, in addition to some of the other, basic first aid, like Band-Aids and stuff in case you get a blister or what have you. But a trauma kit is something, a tourniquet and quick clot is something that I carry everywhere. It doesn't take up a lot of space. The other thing that I do when I travel and use a hotel or stay in a hotel or an Airbnb, I always let them know my preference. Whenever you book, there is typically a space, a text field where you can put in certain, special requests or preferences. And I always let them know that I would like to have a down pillow, just because I prefer down pillows over, the synthetic filling. And the second one is that I tell them that I have sensitivities to fragrances and I would like to have a fragrance-free room. I learned in a discussion actually with one of the guys from Hypoair that almost every hotel has at least 1 or 2 rooms for guests with sensitivities. And even though, I don't have a sensitivity where, if I am exposed to certain smells or whatever, I break out or stop breathing, but I don't want to expose myself to VOCs and to all of that crap that's in, cleaners and whatever else they use in hotels, and air fresheners and whatnot. So I always tell them I have sensitivities to smells and to fragrances, and I ask for a fragrance-free room. So I get the pillow that I want. I get hopefully reduced exposure to VOCs, and then I stay close to a Sprouts or a Whole Foods or whatever local grocery store there might be that carries maybe some of the food that I have. Like in California when I went and there was a Sprouts close by, I picked up some raw milk kefir that I had for breakfast, organic bananas, and then some beef sticks and water, and I was good to go. So with that, we're gonna wrap it up. I'd like to hear, if you want to shoot me an email, or depending on where you see this, if you see it on YouTube, leave me a comment and let me know, what do you carry? Was there something in that list that you're like, you know what, I should be carrying this as well? So let me know by either email, comment, or social media comment, and I'll hope I see and hear you in the next episode.